The Wall of Sound. I'm Kate Ristaw, and if you can hear me, then we are both existing in the same universe at this moment in time, if it is exactly 6:30 p.m. on a possibly June 17th, 2023. Good to see you online. Today we are taking a look back at some interactive fiction that I was working on for Flower Shoppe for Heroes. You don't have to be caught up in the story. I'm not even caught up in the story, so we'll bring it all back around. Don't worry. This is chapter 3 we've been working on, and Flower Shoppe for Heroes. I'll give you a 4-second rundown of what that is. So Flower Shoppe for Heroes is an interactive fiction. This is the front page of the website that I work from on StoryLoom, and it says, "You've always been the hero with a sword in your hand and trolls at your feet, but when your world is turned upside down and a friend is revealed as your greatest foe, you start to wonder, is there more to life than being a hero? It's time to stop and smell the roses in this low-stakes cozy fantasy." So we're writing cozy fantasy. We already have 2 chapters out there published. This one just went up the other day, and we're working on chapter number 3. So the thing that you're going to find out in Flower Shoppe for Heroes, it's based on the main character's name is Stariel, and Stariel is the hero. So he is the most straightforward hero you will ever meet. He wants to hero. He also likes flowers, which we'll probably get around to that flower shop eventually. You know, plot spoiler down the road. It's in the title. So, this is cozy fantasy. It is a lot of things happen in the story that are, you would use the word like anachronistic, right? Like it just comes out of nowhere. But it all fits in together because it has this kind of like wholesome, good-hearted feel. But if you remember, at the end of the Roses chapter, you know what? We can show you 4 seconds here. So at the end of the Roses chapter, that's your scrolling sound effect. It changes every time. Or sometimes it's the same. You never know. So at the end of the scrolling chapter, second chapter, you open the door and stare directly into the face of a bulging, bubbling demon swarm. You raise your sword and yell, "Peonies!" So what we have there is we have an ending that's setting us up for something ridiculously epic and not very cozy. So for those of you who are like reading in the genre or writing in the genre, you know something's going to happen here. Like we're not going to, start like taking off heads and bludgeoning and attacking that bulging, bubbling demon swarm. So when we talked yesterday and we started making our 3rd chapter, let's go take a look at it. We worked through that. So you're staring into the face of a bulging, bubbling demon swarm. Stariel raises his sword to attack, yells "Peonies," and then the beginning of this section of the story in chapter 3 starts with, "You might wonder how I got here." And then we have the devil's devil says, "Actually, and Stariel says, I was deep in the forest. Weren't we going to? I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten ogre when he tricked me." So we talked about this yesterday, but what's basically happening at the beginning of this chapter is I'm taking all this tension that's up here and I'm going whoosh, and bringing it back down. And I'm doing that to kind of like calm things down a bit, get us back into the storyline a little bit so we can find out a little bit more about Stariel and who he is. But also we're catching all you up who might not have been reading along in chapters 1 and 2 also. But we're doing it in a really dorky way. Like this is genuinely, this is genuinely supposed to be like that. So I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten ogre when he tricked me. So one of those things to remember is if you're coming through and you're looking back at your story and you're trying to get back into it at the beginning of a writing session, the thing we always do at the end of our writing sessions is we have what's happening next. So we wrote this last night at the end of the writing session. We wrote what's going to happen next, what we think is going to happen, right? So let me show you one other thing here. So when we look back up here, we can always preview the chapter and see actually what happened in our last episode or last chapter that we were working on. So another reminder, when that preview is loading, we've talked about this before, that the preview sometimes goes a little slowly right as it gets to the 90% mark. Now let me grab this. I'm just going to move this over so y'all can see this a little better as we go. All right, so looking over here, you can see we have Stariel starting the story, right? And let's work our way through. And you might wonder how I got here. Actually, I was deep in the forest. Weren't we going to... I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten ogre when he tricked me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt, but weren't we in the middle of a vicious battle? So you're starting to see the back and forth as that's happening. I'm starting to get myself back into the story. This is usually how I would start a session, is just read a little bit before. At this point, I'm kind of trying to not do any like heavy editing. I know in my head that I'm going to definitely play these out more and revise them and edit it and fix some of the description. But for right now, I'm going to work with what I got. So I can get a little deeper into the story. So just give me a second here. I was trying to explain that he had me hanging over a cauldron of troll snot. I couldn't believe it. Me, the hero, him, the ogre, the cauldron of troll snot. So at this point, we have that devilish devil that's online with us, basically, right? And he goes, ew. I know, right? Unbelievable. See how sticky my hair is? So gross. I know. So anyways, I completely, totally rescued myself without the help of any elves named Veneer or Keebler or Lori or whatever. Shout out to Bob for Lori there. How heroic. So at this point, we've got the devilish devil on our side. I know. Turns out it was the evilest wizard of all time. He was behind the whole thing. I chased him into this very dark and very creepy dungeon. Now, we said again that when we have that very dark and very creepy, we kind of plan on using that again. So we've made that an official name for this place. That's why we got it all capitalized. Yes, and when we first met, you were yelling about peonies? I was. You see, when I was So, like we talked about yesterday, one of the things that's happening there is once we get to this point, we're kind of we don't want to go too far down a rehashing route because that's not entertaining or interesting for anybody who actually has been like reading from one section to the next section to the next session. So it's a little bit of a joke. It's fun. It gets us, takes down that tension that we had where he was diving into the bubbling demon swarm. We unexpectedly see him chatting with the devil at the beginning of the next chapter. So seeing this part here where we've just kind of been slowly lowering the tension, lowering it, right? But you don't want to get to the point where you actually have like completely gotten rid of any forward momentum. So this, at this point, you can see is when we switch it up a bit. So let's see what happens. We go, and it's the princess, and she's crying. We talked about, too, that we'll go through and change some of these expressions in our next revision here. Oh, no, the princess. You shiver at the sound of the princess's screams and tighten your hand around your sword. You can do this. You know you can. You're the hero. And what do heroes do? Hero. Okay. You raise your sword, and as if for the first time, notice the devilish devil standing in your way. Out of my way, foul demon. You cannot stop me from saving the princess. Actually, I can. All right, now we have a little bit of a switch because this is not how the devilish devil has been talking, so we know that something's going on here. He immediately raises his hands and they burst into flame. He launches fireballs of endless pain and suffering directly at your face. So this endless pain and suffering in this kind of voice of this book, we go a little bit over top with some of those descriptions, and when we go back in and revise, we'll do that even more. So what do? The fireball is flying directly into your soul. So we have the other thing that makes this section particularly interesting is we have duck and super duck. So it directly kind of clashes against that, like the fireball is flying directly into your soul. Do you duck or super duck? So it's the opposite of what you would expect. So in this case, we are starting to break out into our choices. I'm going to stop there and come back to what we were actually working on because basically we need to play out those different scenarios. So we talked about if you duck, we have those choices going on here. So for duck, you duck. It doesn't really work. Lots of fire, flamey face, super bad decision, a lot of screaming. Oh geez, I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to duck. I thought you were going to super duck. Why didn't you super duck? Oh man, is your hair melting? Troll snot drips down your face, putting out the flames of endless agony. You whimper. Thank gods for troll snot. Ew. So at this point, we have if you ducked instead of super ducking. You have both a devilish devil who has kind of basically joined your side. Like he stopped attacking you. He feels really bad. Okay. We also have a hair variable there that we did just for fun of in the future, we know that your hair is melted. That's something that we might use later. So we're clicking it in there as a variable, and it gives us options for later again too. Now, let's take a look at what happens if you super duck. So when you super duck, flames fly over your head and the skulls behind you burst into fire. You'd be super creeped out if you weren't screaming. I mean, battle crying. You were definitely using your super heroic battle cry. Hey, stop that. I'm trying to murder you here. Murder me? Why? I'm just saving the princess. And I'm trying to save for retirement. So we've added just a funny line here about trying to save for retirement, right? He throws another fireball at your face, and now we gotta figure out what our plan is here. The only thing I want to keep in mind is I do want to play out this character a little bit. We said concerns about future financial planning as a funny joke. So I want to connect that back. For those of y'all who have read Psychic Bakery, you know that the evilest wizard of all time has some financial issues. So we're going to get to that too. But that devil is devil thinking about retirement is also kind of playing off of that. But what I was going to say is if somebody is going through this, they have not gotten that experience of the devilish devil in this choice. So that's something we want to look back at for a second. So if we want to have him be concerned in some way about his future financial planning, his retirement, I think we can definitely do that here in a little aside. So I'm going to add these in right here. And remember, these are our dialog boxes. So I'm just adding in a couple of dialog boxes there. And let me take a look. So for dialogue, he says, ew. And he says, thank the gods for troll snot, ew. The evilest, wait, not the evilest, what is it? The wizard. Evilest wizard of all time? Maybe it is the evilest wizard of all time. Evilest wizard of all time. Remember the names of your characters. It will help you later. Of all time. Was always trying to exploit workers with his capitalist schemes around and we'll fix this stuff. I'm sorry, y'all. You gotta watch this. There we go. Around and one of the things that we were doing is the troll snot experience. The troll snot experience. And I think we were doing it like this. TM. So, the evilest wizard of all time was always trying to exploit workers with his capitalist schemes around the troll snot experience. Absolutely disgusting. So that's something that we kind of don't really expect to be coming out of StoryLoom's mouth, which actually makes it interesting too. And let's see. So now we can get to that mention of financial planning that we wanted to make just as a funny little aside. So, and that also gives us something to work with the devil's character as we move a little bit further down here. So absolutely disgusting. I know. It's hard enough just saving for retirement. Now we have to deal with your Ponzi schemes. Now we have to deal with his... We're going to write Ponzi schemes, but that setup there for that joke kind of makes me think that we should have something about the a wizard pun there instead of Ponzi scheme reference. So we can figure out how we can reference Ponzi schemes with wizard puns. Hold that. If you got any ideas, dear Lord, put them in chat. All right. So now we're coming down. At the end of this choice, we basically got it where the devilish devil and Stariel are working together, right? So let's look at what we got next here. Now we have you super duck, and when you super duck, we get very quickly to the idea of trying to save for retirement, right? But then he is still trying to murder you. He throws another fireball at your face. And now we got to think about what is the scenario that like gets him to stop throwing fireballs at your face. And the immediate things that come to mind are we have a couple of other characters like that we could bring into the scenario to help us in this battle. We have the depending on which decision people made in the branch, right? We have either a ghost or we have the royal mummy, right? So Her Royal Highness. So something to think about. We're already inside of a choice right now, so I'm not like super excited about adding another branch inside of a choice because that can make it really complicated for something that that is not going to be this is basically like a side battle, right? Like it's building up our character, but it's not the main mission. He's trying to get to the princess. This devilish devil is in the way, but we have a few more other things that are going to make our way into the dungeon. There's a word for that. If you can think of it, put it in chat. All right, so he throws another fireball at your face, and at this point you could probably duck instead of super duck, but then that would lead you right back to what's happening in the scene above. And one of the things that we've talked about before is it's not always good to have like choices that have no real consequences that just lead back to the same situation. So I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to have it go back to the same scenario. But he throws another fireball at your face. You swing your sword. And the fire. Sorry, my spacebar wasn't working there. It's a going slow. All right, so the fireball, we'll just say glances off the devil's face. Now, just a reminder that we've been saying the devilish devil. And as my kid reminded me yesterday, we should be calling him the devilish devil of all time. So we'll go back and switch those in a little bit. So you swing your sword and the fireball glances off the devilish devil of all time's face. And we have a dialogue box here, so I'm going to write in here. Remember, we just select that character if you haven't been going along with how to do these. So we select a character and we can write the dialogue in here. So you swing your sword and the fireball glances off the devilish devil of all time's face. And the devilish devil of all time probably says, ouch. Like, super ouch. Like, what the heck, man? That's like hot. And then in this case, we get to have Stario going the other way and being like, sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. So side note, devilish devil probably can't get his face melted off. So we'll leave it with that. We'll say, he says, sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. And then the devilish devil of all time can say, I'm just kidding, man. I'm good. I'm fireproof. And then, as came up in our discussion yesterday in our chat, I believe Bob was mentioning financial planning, including is it an IRA or a Roth retirement? So we can bring that up here. He can say, sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. I'm just kidding, man. I'm good. I'm fireproof. Unlike my 401k. Which is, I'm just going to say unlike my 401k. So you can lean into that joke a little bit further and take it down a road. I think just saying unlike my 401k is fine. So the weird thing we've done in both of these choices is we built out the devil as this character who cares about his financial planning, right? So what I'm leaning towards is making sure that Stariel can get out of this situation by having something related to that. So we're going to play with that in a second. So we have this. The only thing I want to add in this is, in this case, Stariel has melted hair, right? And in this case, he does not. So I'm going to go over here and put in what is called a set switch. And a set switch, basically, it's a chance for you to go over and set a choice that you made. So set a branch of a choice. Let me move this over so you can see that a little better. All right, so you're setting in a branch of a choice. So giving you an example of that, remember we have either shoes, ghost or mummy, or hair. So in this case, we're doing the hair, and we had those values set of melted hair or troll snotty hair. So in this case, Stariel still has troll snotty hair. Now, this is just making sure that we know that if somebody went down this branch, when they get out of this branch, they have that outcome. Like they have that troll snotty hair in this part, or if they went down this branch, they have the melted hair in this part. This melted hair, troll snotty hair, like those terms are just things that I put in there for myself. Like you saw that the other ones don't really make any sense either. It's mainly for yourself so you remember what a particular set switch is. All right, so we got some set switches. Later on, I'll show you how to check switches, which is going to matter. So far, the variables that we have, we can also check them up here in our star. So under star, we have, does somebody have shoes? Did they get to meet the ghost or the mummy? And do they have either that melted hair or, what was it? Troll snot hair. All right, let me close out of that and we'll see what is coming next. All right, so when we want to start continuing our story, and in this case, we are just staying with a main storyline. We had those little branches off, right? Those branches change things, but they're still leading back into the same story. So we talked about how you can have a story where you go like this, and then it branches off, and it branches off, and it goes off in that direction. In this case, we were coming in like this. We had some branching off. We're coming back together again. So I will not be having jumps at this point. We're going to be moving back. So those things that we're doing, those little choices, are going to matter in the long term of the story, but in the actual like plot line of this chapter, they're not as important. So, or not that they're not as important, they just aren't impacting it that way. So I'm going to take a text and I want to have it come out over here. So see how that is outside of those choices? So it's not inside of that choices anymore. Those choices are done. They've impacted our character, and we'll see how that works a little bit later when we do our preview at the end too. So at this point, our one choice ended with, I know, it's hard enough just saving for retirement. Now we have to deal with his Ponzi schemes. Or, I'm going to erase that. So I'm fireproof, unlike my 401k. So both of those are references to him not being happy about his financial situation, which is a weird thing for the devil. I know. All right, so I think this would be a good spot for let's get just a smidgen of description in here. I don't want to jump right back too quickly into the Stariel and the devil is devil. Let's do like just a little bit more dialogue, and then we'll give us a little description again. And I'll talk about why about that in a second. So in this case, he's saying, I'm fireproof, unlike my 401k, or unlike his Ponzi schemes, or whatever we do. That's a joke. Do you work for the evilest wizard of all time? I really am doubting. Let me see something. All right. So do you work for the evilest wizard of all time? And he should have some type of devil joke here, but right now we're just going to say yes, and it's a real... All right, Bob Ristall, you got to give us the pun. I see you over there in chat. So, do you work for the evilest wizard of all time? And the devilest devil says yes, and it's a... he's a real monster about it. I'm underpaid, overworked, and, you know, he's not in literal hell here, like, but he is, like, wait, I'm underpaid, overworked, and it's almost like I'm stuck in hell. We're going to fix that because that doesn't sound so good, but it is there for later. So, yes, and he's a real monster about it. I'm underpaid, overworked, and it's almost like I'm stuck in hell. And let's have Stariel come back. Let's get our description up here. You look around the dungeon, noticing the fiery skulls. Remember, we had some skulls in the corner. What else we got in this image here too? Let's see. We can preview it for a second, and we can remind ourselves of what some of the things are. This is giving us a second to build out the world a little bit, and we'll talk about the pacing on that as we go through on the revision too. So remember, we're in the dungeon. This is the dungeon that has kind of that hallway there. I think we can talk about, we see those little dungeon cells. So let's go back and add those in instead. So you look around the dungeon. We don't have the fiery skulls right there. So let's just say you look around the dungeon. Your eye. You look around the dungeon. Now y'all know how bad I am at writing description. Down the line of the cells. It's dark. It's damp. It's disgusting. Alright, so he said, do you work for the evilest wizard of all time? Yes, and he's a real monster about it. I'm underpaid, overworked, and it's almost like I'm stuck in hell. And then we had that little description. I'll come back and fix those descriptions. It's mainly just a reminder to myself that I need some kind of description in there. It's almost like I'm stuck in hell. Why are you still working here? You know, I really think that as the devil, you shouldn't be you should be paid a livable wage. All right. You know, get your due. You catch that one? Let's throw it in there just in case anyone missed it. We'll reiterate it. That's right. The devil should get his due. Should get his due. That's a Bob Ristall joke. That's right. The devil should get his due. I'm taking this right to management. And so now would be a good time for Stariel to say, so can I go rescue the princess now? or is it still face melty time? And go rescue the princess. I'm going to go talk to my union rep. Onion rep. It's funny to me, therefore it's funny to somebody. All right. So in that vein, you have no idea what the devilest devil of all time means, but you take the opportunity to dash around him. I'm going to say this, I'll fix this later, but like looking in each of the cells. Okay, looking in each of the cells as you run by. Okay, so the interesting thing is you can put people in these cells. If you do, you either want them to be, this is just me talking through this, like because Stariel's the hero, right? Like he's not going to let everybody out of the cells if he thinks that they should actually be in jail. And so this can be a good way to kind of establish his character in a very like quick and efficient way of if he sees somebody that that is behind one of the cells, right, he needs to decide what he's going to do with them. I don't think I have a background I can use in this scenario for if he's going to look into them. So let's look and see if we do have a background that we could use or not. If we don't have a background that we can use, one of the things that I would do, we have some creepy rooms, which we already used. We have the door in the dungeon, and then these are all outside the castle passage we've used. So let's go and add a background. And I'm going to show you just browse assets in the marketplace. I've already browsed a ton of these assets, so I've already chosen a lot of the ones that I would use in my story. But this will give you an idea of what some of the packs are that are out there that you can use. So for example, I'm looking for backgrounds. So I'm going to click backgrounds on the left. For no reason whatsoever, it is not there. So I'm going to scroll down here. And you can see we have like an adventure pack, a countryside pack, a medieval pack. So when I'm thinking about a dungeon and stuff, I'm going to go, oh yeah, maybe a medieval pack. So let's look and see what we got. All right, so in our medieval pack, we have medieval shops, a command tent, apothecary, medieval homes, heavenly temple, armory display. Sorry, these are a little hard to see, but I already have them in my assets. A smithy, and none of that's going to work. So I'm going to go back one and scroll back down here. We have an entertainment pack, a camping pack, luxury living, slice of life, travel abroad, outdoor, modern living, weekend getaway, medical pack, horror pack, do. And we'll take a look in the horror pack in just a second. I think there's also one of the other packs has something that'll help us too. So that stony basement is going to be a possible choice. The shredded room actually looks like something we might be able to use and call it a dungeon. We'll use the hidden crypt later. That's actually a really good one. So what you've already seen here is a lot of these ones are the ones that we were using in this particular part of the story. Empty warehouse, abandoned room, you already saw that one. Abandoned club, creepy cabin. So it's helpful to look at these. The catacombs, I'm going to use that one. That's a whole bunch of skulls there, so that'll be a good place for some of our couple of epic things happening here. And that hidden crypt is coming up next too. So I'm going to write down that word hidden, so then later on when we look back we remember what's an easy way to find our backgrounds. And then maybe one of y'all can help me remember that too. So one of the things that helps as you're going through these is to remember what some of the names are. So in this case, I already said which one we were going to do, and I conveniently forgot. It was the shredded room. So as you can see there, it says I already own it. So I'm going to go back to my story up here. Click. And I'm going to select it from my collection. What I was mainly doing there was letting you see what some of those packs look like. Once you've added them into your collection, they look like this, except for that black one, which is something that I broke that I need to fix. True story. But now that we know that it's the shredded room, you can actually search shredded room or shredded. So that looks significantly kind of dungeony. So I'm going to go with that one. While we're in here, since we were just talking about it, I'm also going to select those other hidden ones so that we have them in the story for later. So hidden, and it was a hidden passage. Do we have that one yet? I thought we already had that one. Maybe not. So hidden crypt, we got that one. Add another background, select from my collection. We added the crypt for later. We're adding the hidden catacombs for later. And then we're also going to add the ding, crypt, catacombs, and maybe that passage. I thought we already had that passage, but apparently we did not. Oh, nope, there it is. Ha! So if that happens, you can always do this. Click these buttons and go deleted. All right. Now, before we go into using this one, I'm going to call it something just so I remember what that actually is. So dungeon cell. And there's probably a better word for that, but guess what? We're not using it. These two here are the reason I added those now is because I would have to do it again later, and then if it's something I'm going to have to remember, we all know how Kate Brain works, which is sometimes. So now we got that dungeon cell in there. So my plan was Stariel is looking into each of those cells as he goes by, right? All right, so who's he going to see first? So looking at each of the cells as you run by. You peer in the doorway and stumble back. So what are you going to see? Let's find out. So click under dialogue, under characters. We have already used all of these. So in the cell needs to be people that are not in the story yet. And most likely these are either references that I would be making from Sidekick Bakery that you are familiar with before, or they might be characters that are going to come back. So if you choose to not let a character out of a cell, you've immediately made an enemy. So this is something that I'm going to keep in mind. I'm building up Stariel some enemies that we can use if we want to. I tend to write in a kind of breadcrumb way where I can see that I'm leaving myself possibilities that later I can use. You don't have to pick up every single breadcrumb that you drop, but you do want to do things that you're doing for a purpose. So right now, if Stariel is going to look through 3 cells, right, we know that one of them, probably the third one, needs to be like the princess because it can start to get boring if you go too far into this. But the first two, if he is actually going to let somebody out of that cell, you got to think of how it's going to keep your pacing going or slow down your pacing too. So just mentioning that for consideration. Because now we're thinking of who is in the cell. Hell in the cell. All right. So scrolling down, let's think about who we want to bring in. Like we have talked about before, we have a lot of these characters that are pre-made. You can also make some of your own characters. I'm not doing it so much yet because I don't have as much like skill and knowledge in making like Photoshop characters, and I don't have artistic talent necessarily in that zone. So I tend to use characters that are already made. I said to you all I really like these ones. I don't think I'm going to have any of those trapped in there yet. This is hilarious. That would be really funny to just have Josh there in the cell. Something to think about. The first one, I like, if I want to do something like that, where the second one is somebody you really don't expect, the first one should be somebody you really do expect. So, a funny one that I have an idea about. Let me find him, and then I think I can tell you. Shirtless werewolf. And there is a joke. And I'm going to put him right here. So I should have named him when I added him in. So I'm going to go back and name him. So one of the ways you can go back and fix that if you miss it is up at the top, that little arrow. Go to your story assets. And in Sidekick Bakery, I had I think it was the most sexist wizard of all time. So this guy's going to be super sexist. So I think that was his name. We can come back and change it if it's not. The most sexist wizard of all time. Or we can call him the sexist wizard, I think. Yeah, we'll call him the sexist wizard of all time. Most sexist wizard. No. Yeah. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what's happening with that in a second. So none of that fits, right? So I think what I did before was I just called him sexist wizard. And there we go. So the thing that was funny about the sexist wizard in Sidekick Bakery was dude was a sexist wizard who got turned into a werewolf. So now if he looks in the cell and he sees the sexist wizard, and the sexist wizard says, "Let me out." All right. So sexist wizard says, "Let me out." And then Stariel can reply, "Wait a minute. Aren't you... Wait a minute. You look really familiar." And let's see. Have we met before? Now the joke with the sexist wizard is dude's gonna say something sexist, and you want to like ride the line between it being funny, but I also like kind of put things in to sting a little bit, like so that we can call out stuff that like people shouldn't say. So wait a minute, you look really familiar. Have we met before? And you're not my type. And therefore, by saying that, Stariel goes, "Oh, you're the most sexist wizard of all time." And remember, we capitalize those. Most sexist wizard of all time. And happy to make your acquaintance. And we'll probably change that later into something that is more, I don't know, interesting. So he says something along the lines of happy to make your acquaintance. Acquaintance spelled wrong. Doo-doo. And he says, "Why are you locked up?" So we're setting ourselves up. We're tossing a ball out that then we can answer, right? Let's see. So he's also a werewolf, and he's a sexist wizard. Oh, you're the most sexist wizard of all time. How to make friends? Why are you locked up? I have no idea. And ready? So he says, "I have no idea," but then he says, "Growl." And then we get to have Stariel say, "Wait a second. Did you just growl?" And in classic form, the sexist wizard can say, Oh, we gotta do like, it's like a Little Red Riding Hood type of thing, right? Where you say, oh, what big eyes you have, better to, I don't know, eat your grandma with something. I don't know. So we'll figure out how to use this. So wait a second, you just growl. That's my stomach. You can see it, you can hear it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. Wearing a shirt. My abs are awesome. Dink. His abs are pretty awesome. All right, and then Stariel can say something along the lines of, so we just had that wait a second. Let's do another wait a second. Wait a second. Did you just grow more chest hair? So the interesting thing about this is we can add this line here, and a plot spoiler for those of you who are reading along too, you're not really going to be able to go back and check out the number of hairs that exist on the Sexist Wizard. So I can get away with like using the same image and just say, so his last one was, so his last answer was that's my stomach. So let's do that's my chest. You can see it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My pecs. Pecs. How do you think you spell pecs? P-E-C-S. Pisces. My pecs are awesome. I feel like Stariel should also be acknowledging that. Let's go like this instead of wait a second. Let's say they really are. But, sorry, I got to do a little bit of editing there so I remember that. So that's my chest. You can see it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My pecs are awesome. And then Stariel says, they really are. But did you just become a werewolf? Did you just become a werewolf? And that's where we do this one. So we were building that one up slowly, and then we get to do the add a character, select character look, select from my collection, and plot spoiler, y'all. We have a werewolf. We just have to find them. Fast. I need a better song for this one. This is your scrolling song today. This is your scrolling song today. Getting close to the werewolf. Yay! All right, and we got the straight up werewolf. So close. Straight up W wolf. Look, and we've got that there. Let's close it out. I always do that. And we close it out. Now we have our new character. I didn't save that name when it came through, so I'm going to have to fix it again. And this will give us a good second to go back and remember how to do that. So when you need to change a name because you just messed it up like I did, you can go back. You can change your story assets. You can find that werewolf. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I have him. I have too many looks. I'm deleting one of those. And that new character name up there, I'm going to go straight up. Ooh, how much can we fit in there? Let's just say full werewolf. Boop, boop, boop. Kind of reminds me of the full Monty, the full werewolf. And then you got to click over here to make sure that that goes in. All right, so now we got it in. Click. And click, and go back to our story, which was click. Now I know the one thing that my editor is going to say is flowers. Are we going to ever get to a flower shop? We're going to get to a flower shop. But we should also think about how we bring those in a little bit more in this particular section. So when we do our revision, that'll come back around too. They really are. But did you just become a werewolf? So the full werewolf? Yes. I will eat your soul. Everybody wants to eat his soul down in the dungeon. Now we have a reason for Stariel to keep somebody in the cell. Hell in the cell. Can't say that low. Hell in the cell. So yes, I will eat your soul. I'm gonna go. And in classic form, if you got a full werewolf, you gotta add a wolf. All right. So now one of the things we can fix really quickly, because we weren't doing this while we were going through, and this is a good chance for us to take a step back and look at what we did. So we created this little tiny scene in here where we're getting a little bit of back and forth that's as he's looking through each of those cells. One of the things that we'll want to do is build these out a little more in our vision too. This one, he's yelling, "Let me out." When he yells that, he's in the cell, but Stariel is actually in a different background. So we're going to come over here, add a background, add it right here, select the background, and if you remember, he is in the dungeon. And if you don't remember, you scroll up here and you see, oh yeah, he's in the dungeon. Sweet. And he was just fighting that devil in the dungeon, so that we'd never change the background there. But as we go back and forth between these, we're going to be going back and forth between the two. I usually dissolve fast if it's a back and forth like this. So that just means that the cuts will go quicker. A straight cut, we can decide if we want it or not. Usually the dissolve fast is pretty good. The cut feels like a little too sudden. But you can do the cut in here between if you wanted to. So, wait a minute, you look really familiar. Have we met before? Excuse me. Let's add in the other background. Put him back in the dungeon cell. Dissolve fast. Next one. Add another background, back and forth. We might actually end up making these cuts because this is a lot of back and forth, and we want it to go pretty quickly. So we'll see how it looks when we do the preview, and we might end up making them cuts instead since they're pretty fast. It's faster dialogue anyway. So and dungeon, dissolve fast, and then another dungeon. So you can see this is definitely like back and forth dialogue, back and forth. I can slow things down if we're going to need to, and we probably are because we don't have a lot of description in here. And you all know that tends to be a lot of the things that I'm editing in my revision is adding in a description and thinking about pacing and how I can slow things down and speed them up and keep my reader actually engaged. So you can see what I'm doing though, going back and forth, adding in those dungeon cells, dissolving fast, dissolving slow, and we'll add one more right there. And this is one of those things that you don't particularly have to be here, but you can be here for them. I was trying to remember what some of the first like werewolf movies I saw, like when I was growing up. But there was a silver bullet show of some kind on TV that was actually like genuinely creepy. See, I was getting distracted though. Let's get rid of that. Let's bring over our background instead. And bring it up a little bit. This is a lot of back and forth, so. Dungeon cell, dissolve fast. And it reminded me of there was a show called like a Beauty and the Beast show too. That was that same general time frame. That's all my mom watching those shows all the time, and now I'm literally writing her that interactive fiction. You're welcome, Mom. And let's see. Let's add in. We're almost there. Did we get to the end yet, y'all? Getting closer and closer. And all right, so now we have, but did you just become a werewolf? And we got the dungeon again, dissolving fast. You're almost there. You're almost gonna eat his soul. All right. So And there we go. Dungeon soul. Yes, he's gonna eat his soul. And I'm gonna go. And you're out of here, Stariel. Let's get you out of here. You don't need to free the creepy werewolf, sexist werewolf. Sexist werewolf. We have full werewolf there. Alright, so I'm gonna go and dungeon cell, dissolve fast, wolf. And we can do a callback now that we have that full werewolf and everybody's like consideration. So if ever we want to make somebody makes some sexist type of comment, then you do like a little callback to that guy. Now that we have it in the storyline, and we are back in the dungeon. And let me get a drink of water while we look back. All right. Okay, so we're back in the dungeon. We decided to not let out the sexist werewolf, and and dungeon. Okay, so you run down to the next cell. Cam would be pretty happy that you didn't free the sexist. The sexist. We're gonna have to go back and see if it's the most sexist wizard of all time or if it's just the sexist werewolf or what it was, but we'll write most sexist wizard of all time. I think it's the sexist werewolf. So we'll come back to that. And then you can say something like, all right, sexist wizard of all time. That guy's the worst. All right. Add another text here. We are in the dungeon, right? Okay, so the next few cells are empty except for some glittering ooze in the third cell, which shifts into the face of 1,000 dying suns, and you quickly look away. Because what do 1,000 dying suns even look like? Do they look like glittering ooze in the third cell? So doing that there, we're doing that one thing again of, something like wildly way out of understanding of anyone, and we're not going to deal with that. We're going to look away. We're going to move on. If this was, this is also in that cozy fantasy realm, and this is also a funny one that's like moving at a pretty good clip, and we'll be slowing it down, but it's basically not going to be thinking about the deeper truths of life right away. There's going to be those moments that we pull down into it, and right now we're not thinking about the glittering ooze that is sucking our soul away. And so that would be another good time to remind us what he's looking for is the princess, and she can yell, "Help me!" again. Oh my gosh, help me. There you go. By the way, if you seriously think that the princess is just sitting in there yelling for help, there's probably a little bit more to that story that we need to talk about. Because seriously, I don't know what it is, so you're going to have to tell me. The chat's open. All right, so help me. I'm coming. Let's see, you dash down to the fourth cell where you come face to face with... All right, now this is what we were talking about. I just put it in some random dude, right? So let's add our character of some random dude. And it can't be a random peasant because we already have a random peasant. So let's go and look, and we'll make some decisions from there. So let's select, I don't know if I want to browse assets in the marketplace. I might go back to just select from my collection. because if we're just putting in some random person, we had some cool characters in that fantasy pack too. A vampire might be a good choice. I really like the idea of just some guy named Josh. And I think it might be funny to be like, sportswear pack. I don't even own the sportswear pack. Like a guy in a casual jogger, the Sunday slugger, the soccer champ, the buff bod, the gym rat, fitness model. Let's go back to we also have these guys too, the demon hunters, and the magical girls, and the classic pack. I'm thinking we could have a horse. That's a good reference. And okay, so we gotta have somebody in here. I like the idea of maybe having like one of these professionals. So let's buy them. We have them over here. We're confirming purchase, which just spending our coins there. I'm gonna go back to my collection, close these out, and I need to choose though. So I really like the idea of not a gangster type, but just a businessman. So do we even need just business? I'm a businessman. I do business. And a hearty businessman. That's funny. And the sassy agent. All right, here we go. Wonder, that looks a little pixelated on my screen. I think it should be good. Josh. Now remember, we named him over here. If we name him over here, that doesn't really do anything besides name the look if you want to get him into different clothes at a later thing. So you dash down the 4 cell where you come face to face with, hi, I'm Josh. And we go like this. And let's add in Stariel, and Stariel can say, hi, Josh. I'm looking for the princess. And back to Josh. And have you seen her? No. But can I interest you in some free range troll snot? And this is just a fun chance for us to throw in like a small callback to one of those choices. So we can add over here on our left side, we can add what's called a check switch. So a check switch right here, you just drop a check switch and you say, if that hair was a melted hair, right? And you can bring up this dialogue into there. Oh, let's do it this way. All right, and have Stariel say, because his hair is all melted, right? So let's not do Stariel. Let's go. You reach your hand up and touch your melted hair. It is stuck to the sides of your head like a I don't know. You reach your hand up and touch your melted hair. It is stuck to the side of your head like. And this in my normal writing process, I'm going to tell you, I would just go like that. And if somebody gives me something better to put in there, I'll put it in there. But for right now, I don't have it. So it's stuck to the side of your head like blah, blah, blah. And then you say, no, I'm good. I've had enough troll snot to last a lifetime. And I think in any case, this can be the same answer down here. So notice what I'm putting in here is I'm putting, if the hair is set to melted, they say you reach your hand up and touch your melted hair. It is stuck to the side of your head like blah, blah. And in this case, if the hair is troll snotty hair, you reach your hand up and I'm going to use a similar line. You reach your hand up and touch your troll snotty hair. hair. It is climbing toward the sky like, and plot spoiler, those are going to be flower references because those are probably climbing roses, and that one is probably something melted. All right, so either way, no, I'm good. I'm enough trolls not to last a lifetime. And let's say we're just figuring out how to talk about Josh here, how to transition us out of this. So you look over at Josh, who appears to be, what do businessmen do that's businessy? Like, does this dude have glasses? What does he have? What does he look like again? Well, let's say you look over at Josh, who is adjusting his tie, because he has a tie. Adjusting his tie. And you ask him, you want out of here? Because at this point, you're not really sure if you should let this dude out while he's in there. And this is like an evil prison, so you're like, we should probably let people out of the evil prison. But so he says, so you say, you want out of here. Josh looks at you with utter disbelief. Doop, boop. And let's go with a Josh saying, "Are you kidding me? You know how long it took me to make this appointment?" No way, dude. No way, bro. I am in it to win it. The evilest wizard of all time set me up here while he's checking into some blah blah funding. We are going to make bank. Have you noticed yet that the actual evil guys in this story are just white dudes who want to make money? Alright. And in that case, he says, we are going to make bank. And Stariel, being the hero that he is, that does not sound very heroic. But you know what does sound heroic? He looks at you with utter confusion, matching his utter disbelief from earlier. Disbelief from 5 seconds ago. It might actually be his only expression. Hashtag Botox. There we go. So it might actually be his only expression. And you say, but you know what does sound heroic? Rescuing the princess. All right, Stariel is on his way to rescue the princess. So now here's the kicker. We have set up. He's hit a couple of different things that he's trying to get on his way to rescuing the princess. Like he encountered the devil. Like kind of got him on his side. Sent him off to go get some more money, make himself some more money, fund his retirement. He talked to each of these two. We also have two characters from the previous chapter that we haven't brought in yet that I really want to see coming back in. So I don't know yet if I'm going to do that at the end of this chapter or the beginning of the next chapter. Most likely, I want to bring them in at the end of this chapter, and probably before we get to the actually epic battle, right? We all know that something's going on. There's some bigger storyline here that, like, yes, the princess needs to be registered. She needs to be registered as rescued. So she needs to be rescued. So we need to figure out a way to we get to her, but then there's going to be some twist, right? And the way that this has been building, we can get to finding the princess at the end of this chapter, but we need to have if we're not bringing those characters back in, we need to have some subtle references to those characters. So we'll do that in our revision, the references to the ghosts and or the royal mummy, right? So then when they pop back in our next chapter, we're not like, who and what are we talking about? So we're going to have to edit those in a little bit here. We can end this chapter with some kind of cliffhanger, like maybe in really classic hero form, like the princess is like tied up and a giant rock is almost about to be dropped on her. And you dive through the doorway, and then that's the pause point, right? So let's lean towards something like that, which will give us kind of the shape of the chapter, and then we can go back through and add those subtle references that we talked about and do some of those other things. We know that the evilest wizard of all time is coming in the next chapter. Shape of the chapter wise, we don't want to add him in yet because that's going to be like way too many things happening in one chapter to keep people like clicking through for an interactive fiction story like this. So I'm going to get us to the doorway. We open the next fancy door, which then leads to the princess. Beneath a giant rock. All right. So let's do it. Let's do it. And do you notice what I just did there, where you can also just double click to bring these if you don't want to drag them down? So I'm adding a couple of these in because I know that I'm going to be using a couple of them. One thing I'm just going to write down here is what I just said, because I just walked you through what I'm trying to get done in the next few here. And that's like, get us to the doorway, open it, and the princess, oh no, rock. Cool. And that's just so we have that existing. So rescuing the princess. Add some right here. And we're doing a lot of dashing and things down in this chapter. So you you nod your head to Josh, and he nods back. Because you nod in business. That's a business thing. Notice how none of that punctuation makes sense in that, but we will come back and fix it. Because you're not in business, that's a business thing, and then you're off. You race down the hallway again. You're almost to the end. The princess must be on the other side of this door. Princess. We already used one of these doors, special doors, but I think we're fine for right now. We can do a dissolve slow. We don't really have anything else that I would use. We can check one more time, so let's check it. My tendency would just be to go ahead and use the door that we already have. So we're looking for one last door. We've already used these hidden passage. We could put her down that doorway through the final hidden passage, we could say. So that's a possibility. So we don't use the same exact background. That might work. That would be funny. And there's those catacomb walls we're going to use later. There's a lot of good ones. Yeah, the best choice probably is that sending down that passageway, because we have not been using that one very much. And that kind of makes sense. We have that hidden crypt, but that's where we kind of want her to end up being. So we could put her back at that door. We're already using a mysterious door though, so I'm kind of getting a little stuck here, but I think we can basically put you in that passageway as the final thing. And then we'll enter in the crypt in the next scene. Cool. So let's do that. So go over here and scroll down and where'd it go? Where'd it go? Is it that castle passage? It is. So the princess must be. So you race down the hallway again. You're almost to the end. The princess must. Let's see. You're almost to the end. There is one final passage. Or there is. You're almost to the end. The dungeon opens up into a passage way. You follow the, what are they called? Torches. The torches through the You follow the torches through the passageway. We'll fix that in a minute. And there you see her. Boop. So let's pull this back up here. Well, that's funny. We ended up not even using that because we basically just put this all in this little section. So we can cut that out, and instead of having that be the castle passageway, it can actually be the that crypt that we were going to use. So sometimes that happens where you start building it out and you're like, wait a minute, that's not actually, we don't even need that anymore. Because instead of changing the background of the scene, I did it like in the description. So we don't need that kind of middle scene. We just need to get to the crypt. We can type in crypt and see if that's the actual phrase. And it was. So it'll save y'all. You can come through and you can name these. And that just helps you for later when you see. Because sometimes in that small little box, you're like, what does that say? Does that say crypt? How am I so old? Why can't I see anything? What's this? Let's delete it. We don't need that. And let's close this out. Wait, do we want that crypt or this crypt? Catacombs or crypt? There's another crypt here. Let's get rid of that one. All right, so catacombs or crypt? Catacombs or crypt? Crypt. All right, so we're keeping the crypt. All right, so you follow the torches to the passageway, and there you see her in classic Stariel form, the princess. And you're surprised. All right, and in this case, she actually knows his name, so she can yell, Stariel, my love. You see the shine of her golden tresses. What does she look like, dudes? Anybody got anything? We got some yellow hair. Let's go over to our story assets. Let's take a closer look at our princess. So one of the funny things is Stariel has this idea of who she is, but it might not actually match up with who she really is. But she does have the shine of her golden hair, the green or possibly blue of her eyes, her delicate wrists. That seems like a thing that like people think is important. So in old-timey fake land. So let's do it. So you see the shine of her golden tresses, the green or possibly blue of her wide maiden eyes, and the delicate turn of her wrists. She looks at you with wild hope and love and possibly hunger. No, that's not right. Just love. Yep. Wrists. All right. So you see the shine of her golden tresses, the green or possibly blue of her wide maiden eyes, which is totally a weird thing to say, but totally funny, and the delicate turn of her wrists. She looks at you with wild hope and love and possibly hunger. No, that's not right. Just love. Yep. She is totally digging on you. When's the last time you heard that? She is also about to die. Princess. Princess. No. Now, here's the thing that we can do. We can fully describe this out, this little section here of how she's about to die, or we can just mention it there that she's about to die. I thought it would be something funny, like, because death is funny, like a giant rock or a one of those, like, slicey things. We'll think about that. But I actually think that we can get away with, and we'll see how this goes when we revise, with saying she's about to die. The princess, no! And then we move on into our next chapter. And so this is making me wonder, and I'll look it up and I'll tell you all next time. One of the things that like we've talked a lot about in the past, I've talked a lot about with some of my friends, is the idea of like how you actually do a cliffhanger, right? And that like it's not that interesting to like get to the door, right? Or open the door without seeing what's on the other side of the door, like because the real cliffhanger is like seeing what's on the side on the other side of the door and not knowing what's going to happen. So in this case, like we've seen what's on the other side of the door. It's the princess. She's about to die. Like that's a cliffhanger that leaves us wondering what's going to happen next. All right. So I think in terms of what we have here, there's a lot we need to revise, but we have a basic shape of a chapter that we can work with and play with. So what I'll do, just like I do at the end of every session here, is I'm going to play through this chapter, and you can see I'll write notes as I go for little edits that I'm going to make tonight. And then you'll be able to go through and read through those edits and see how things ended up in this next week also. So let me take some notes as we go. In some cases, as I get further along in edits, as I get further along in edits, I'll make edits as I'm going through this preview, right? In this case, I am going to make most of my notes on a piece of paper. So here, I can set some of the story variables. In this case, you can choose between melted hair or troll snot hair. Anybody out there in the land of chat have a choice or a preference for having one of our variables be melted hair or troll snotty hair? Now's your chance for your choice. But otherwise, in about 10 seconds, we're probably going to go troll snotty. What the goal and something I was thinking about long term for the troll snot is that it can actually be a good hair product for those of y'all who like to have your hair sticking straight up. I'm thinking of my friend Robert, who back in the day had a mohawk, and he would use egg whites and Elmer's glue in his mohawk in the 80s, and an iron, and he would like put his hair up against the wall and iron out that mohawk before Aquanet came into holding the market on that. So we got our troll snotty hair is going up, and we're loading up the preview, and we'll see what's coming up here. Let's give it that second to load while I get a drink of water. All right, we're loading up, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. I can't do too much zooming, but I'll give you what I can. All right. One moment here. We're going to miss the bottom of Stariel, but I think we'll be fine. This is the only interesting thing about the StoryLoom platform with the preview. The preview has actually been really great because you can see what's happening while you're changing it. But that little section is kind of stuck to the side of the thing there, and I want you to be able to read a little bit, so here we go. You'll remember this, and let's make our way through. So, you might wonder how I got here. Actually, I was deep in the forest. Weren't we going to... I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten ogre when he tricked me. I have a note that I need to check to make sure that's an ogre and not a troll. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but weren't we in the middle of a vicious battle? Just give me a second here. I was trying to explain that he had me hanging over a cauldron of troll snot. I couldn't believe it. Me, the hero. Him, the ogre, the cauldron of troll snot. Ew. I know, right? Unbelievable. See how sticky my hair is? So that's one that I'm just going to grab as we're going, because for some reason it has a period stuck in there. So see how sticky my hair is? So gross. I know. So anyways, I completely totally rescued myself without the help of any elves named Vanir or Keebler or Lori or whatever. How heroic. I know. Turns out it was the evilest wizard of all time. He was behind the whole thing. I chased him into this very dark and very creepy dungeon. We need to mention that one more time to kind of slam that home. So very dark and very creepy. I'm just going to add that into our dialogue in a little bit here. Yes, and when we first met, you were yelling about peonies? I was. You see, when I was Oh no, the princess! You shiver at the sound of the princess's screams and tighten your sword around your hand around your sword. You can do this. You know you can. You're the hero. And what do heroes do? Hero. Okay. You raise your sword. And as if for the first time, you notice the devilest devil standing in your way. Devilest devil of all time? That's what we ended up writing. I'll grab that while we're going. Hey, wait, there he is. The devilest devil of all time. Whoops. The devilest devil of all time standing in your way. Out of my way, foul demon! You cannot stop me from saving the princess. Actually, I can. He raises his hands, and they burst into flame. He launches fireballs of endless pain and suffering directly into your face. It's happening again. What do? The fireball is flying directly into the soul, into your soul, and according to chat, we super duck. You super duck. Flames fly over your head, and the skulls behind you burst into fire. You'd be super creeped out if you weren't screaming. I mean, battle crying. You were definitely using your super heroic battle cry. Hey, stop that. I'm trying to murder you here. Murder me? Why? I'm just trying to save the princess. And I'm trying to save her retirement. He throws another fireball at your face. You swirl your sword, and the fireball glances off the devilest devil of all time's face. It's a weird line there, but quick, like, ouch, like super ouch, like, what the heck, man? That's like hot. Sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. I'm just kidding, man. I'm good. I'm fireproof, unlike my 401k. Do you work for the evilest wizard of all time? Yes, and he's a real monster about it. I'm underpaid, overworked, and it's almost like I'm stuck in hell. You look around the dungeon, your eye following down the line of cells. It's dark, it's damp, it's disgusting. Why are you still working here? You know, I really think that as the devil, you should be paid a livable wage. You know, get your due. That's right. The devil should get his due. I'm taking this right to management. We need to either decide if it's funnier to say management or union. So we'll write that down. Management, union. So, can I rescue the princess now? Or is it still face melty time? Go rescue the princess. I'm going to talk to my onion rep. Still funny to me. You have no idea what the devil's devil of all time means, but you take the opportunity to dash around him. Management. Onion. Looking in each of the cells as you run by. You peer in the doorway and stumble back. You peer in the first doorway. Let's say the first doorway. And I'm going to check on the name of the werewolf from Sidekick Bakery, because the Sexist Werewolf is a crossover. So I want to make sure I get it the same. And whoops, sorry. I want to do one quick thing here. And that is you peer in the first doorway. You peer through the through the first cell door and stumble back. Let me out! Wait a minute, you look really familiar. Have we met before? Okay, those cuts are really slow, so we're going to go to full cut like we talked about. You can watch it on this next turn and decide if we should do that. So, you're not my type. Oh, you're the most sexist wizard of all time. Possibly the most sexist werewolf. Possibly the sexist werewolf. I don't remember. Happy to make your acquaintance. So I am going to switch to those transitions there like we talked about. Instead of dissolving fast, they're going to be cuts. Why are you locked up? I have no idea. Growl. Wait a second. Did you just growl? That's my stomach. You can hear it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My abs are awesome. They really are, but did you just grow more chest hair? That's my chest. You can see it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My pecs are awesome. They really are, but did you just become a werewolf? Yes, I will eat your soul. Man, so many people want to eat his soul, huh? I'm gonna go. You should probably eat his juicy bits. Woof. You run down to the next cell. Cam would be pretty happy that you didn't pre the most sexist wizard of all time. That guy's the worst. We should add slightly more here, so I'm just going to add that in as a note right here. Explain. Okay. Okay, so the next few cells are empty except for some glittering ooze in the third cell, which shifts into a face of 1,000 dying suns, and you quickly look away. Help me! I'm coming! You dash down to the fourth cell. And we should add some things like you dash down to the fourth cell heroically. So you dash down to the fourth cell where you come face to face with... Hi, I'm Josh. Hi, Josh. I'm looking for the princess. Have you seen her? No, but can I interest you in some free-range troll snot? You reach your hand up and touch your troll snotty hair. It is climbing toward the sky like something that you something. No, I'm good. I've had enough troll snot to last a lifetime. You look over at Josh, who is adjusting his tie. You, want out of here? Josh looks at you with utter disbelief. Are you kidding me? You know how long it took me to make this appointment? No way, bro. I am in it to win it. The evilest wizard of all time set me up here while he's checking into some blah, blah, blah funding. We are going to make bank. So on this part, you can think about this like Shark Tank. And so we'll kind of think about that too. Put ourselves a note for later. That does not sound very heroic, but you know what does sound heroic? He looks at you with utter confusion, matching his utter disbelief from 5 seconds ago. It might actually be his only expression. Rescuing the princess. You nod your head to Josh, and he nods back because you nod in business. That's a business thing. And then you're off. You race down the hallway again. You're almost at the end. The dungeon opens up into a passageway. You follow the torches through the passageway, and there you see her. The princess! Stario, my love! You see the shine of her golden tresses, the green or possibly blue of her wide maiden eyes, and the delicate turn of her wrists. She looks at you with wild hope and love and possibly hunger. No, that's not right, just love. Yep, she is totally digging on you. She is also about to die. The princess! No! And as a side note, I'll do it for you here because I'm going to do it when I go back through and edit some things here. That default expression is going to be, oh no, utter sadness. All right, we got ourselves a draft. So what I'm going to do here later is I'm going to go through tonight and tomorrow. And I'm going to clean things up. I'm going to go and add in a little bit more description, fix some pacing, and you'll be able to read that in the coming week here. And I'll stop by tomorrow night and I'll do a little bit more streaming so I can show you where things ended up, and I'll talk about some of the choices that I made. However, I'm not doing that part on camera because I need to actually focus and think and not talk to you while I'm doing it. So, in keeping that in mind, this has been the Wall of Sound, and I hope you had a good evening. And you know what? I'll see you again tomorrow night. Bye.